Welcome everyone to the Monday, August 11th Select Board meeting. At this time, I'm calling the meeting to order with a roll call attendance beginning at this end.
Smacko present.
Manchurick present.
Capiello present.
And Hardikoff is present as well. For those of you that choose to, please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, we're going to do an agenda review and approval, but I would like to make the suggestion that we move 9A up to item D under public hearings and invited guests. If anyone would be willing to entertain that, please make a motion.
I'll make a motion as stated. Second.
Very good. And roll call on that?
Smacko, aye.
Manchurick, aye.
Capiello, aye.
Hardikoff, aye. Thank you. Going to open public comment. Public comment is limited to 15 minutes, 3 minutes per person if possible. Is there anyone online?
Our school board liaison is online when that time comes.
Yep. And anyone else that would like to speak under public comment at this time? If not, I will politely close the first public comment. There will be another one at the end of this meeting. Up next will be our school board liaison invited guest. Hello, Carrie online.
Oh, 1 second, Carrie. We can see that you're talking, but it looks like the speakers are down. So let me fix that problem. Try again. No. I'm going to try to see if I can hear you on my laptop. Can you keep talking, Carrie? Try one more time. So I can't see you on my laptop either.
When I ever log off and right back in.
I have my camera off. I know you have your camera off. I can't see. We can't hear you though. The interesting thing is I think we can hear and see you light up when the sound from the meeting comes through, but it seems like your microphone isn't connected to the Teams meeting. I don't know if it's a permissions thing. If you try logging in, logging out, and it doesn't work, you can try calling in from the meeting. Absolutely. We're glad you're here. Jesse, if you're in a position to, could you unmute yourself and just say something to see if the speakers are working?
Can you hear me?
We can. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Okay. We'll give Carrie an opportunity to come back in, and I will copy the call in just in case.
We confirm with our elected leader series. Yes.
I did.
Okay.
And I'm surprised that he's not here now.
Okay.
And hopefully he will be here later.
Great.
While we're waiting, could I just say something? I don't need to pull this off the consent agenda, but on the select board meeting minutes, Tiffany, on page 3, it talks about people, it's referring to minutes, and this says January minutes. I think it should say June.
Another J word.
Much appreciated.
Want me to open and close public comment for the issuance of the building?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. At this time, I'm going to open public comment for the issuance of a building permit on McDaniel Shore Drive. private road for Mark Rizzo and Vanessa Haley Rizzo, map 124, lot 3. Is there anyone who'd like to speak in reference to that application?
The applicant has requested to withdraw the application. Currently, they plan to reapply, but it was posted as a public hearing. We sent out notices, so if anybody was here to speak on that application, now's your opportunity to do so, but we do expect the application will come forward later in the process.
And if you're online and would like to speak for or against that application or share an opinion in reference to it, you can mouse over your screen, click on the little hand that says raise, and we'll recognize you. At this time, I'm going to then close public comment in reference to the issuance of that building permit. I saw Carrie pop on and then left again.
I
Go
move
ahead,
we
sir.
table this item.
Oh, okay, and I would second that. Could I have a roll call on tabling that?
Samaco, aye.
Mancheck, aye.
Capello, aye.
And Hardikoff, aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
The last time we did this, we noticed abutters again. So we've now noticed them twice. We do recover some of those notice fees with the application fee for the Class 6 and private road, but probably we'll be going backwards once we notice it a third time. Do you want to notice it again, or are you of the opinion that noticing it twice has given ample opportunity to notify their neighbors of the building?
I would frankly make a motion that we notice again, but that the actual applicant, because it was their request to table, pays the notification fees.
I think we've tabled this.
Okay. So notice again.
Notice again at the cost of the applicant, since it was their request to table.
Has there been a second?
No, I need a second if I could.
I'd second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Samaco, aye.
Mancheck, aye.
Capello, aye.
And Hardikoff, aye. Motion carries. I don't see our speaker online.
Is she typing something?
No, I just shared the dial-in information. I think we should proceed, and if we see her join on, we can interject the comment at that time. That makes
Certainly.
sense?
Yep.
Okay. Oh, here she is.
Oh. Proceed, Carrie, if you can hear us.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. School update.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for your patience. I appreciate it. So just a few updates. As you can imagine, now that it's August, school and preparations are in the swing of things. So we wrapped up our summer programming. Also at the ECLC, the brand new story walk is up, and feel free to speak to Laura to set up a time to go and see it. It looks beautiful. And we're very proud of that. And then we're also gearing up for our staff and students to arrive later this month, that last week of August. In addition, we're focusing on new policies that need to be in place in the start of the school year, such as parental rights and cell phone bans. Administrators have participated in multiple trainings and workshops all over the summer and are getting ready and are excited to start the school year and bring those students back in. And we are fully staffed with the exception of just a few paraprofessional positions. And then finally, we have adopted and messaged out to the families of our students the new code of conduct that we're really proud of. So I just stuffed a lot of things in there, but it's been a busy summer.
Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you, guys.
Have a good night. Stay cool. Next up on our agenda for public hearings and invited guests is the September 21st resident engagement event, Your Town, Your Voice, Building Barrington Center.
Yes, so I'll start. I'll give Doug an opportunity to step up to the podium or the microphone to discuss the Energy Committee Sunday component of this event. This is something we talked about at the last select board meeting, kind of when the planning stages were very early on, just kind of as a save the date, pencil in September 21st. Since then, we've had an opportunity to fill in our vision for the day. And this week, we will start messaging to the community about the details of that event and encouraging them to participate. So from the resident perspective, this event will be a general purpose update on the town center progress report and details of the work that is ongoing and where we see the town center going. It will also be a little bit of a like a day in the life or a town center experience, part of what we have for the vision of the town center. So the first part will kind of be sit down presentation style. Tentatively, that will be at the elementary school, and that will feature presentations from staff, from the master plan implementation consultants and the work they've been doing on the town center. Also from the UNH Downtowns and Trails program, they'll be presenting their findings and recommendations. And that will be the more formal opportunity for back and forth and feedback from the community, kind of like a traditional charrette in the planning world. And we're working on lining up childcare options so families can participate in that part and drop their kids off with some help there. So we're lining up those details. And then, so that's like a 10 to noon type time frame. And then starting at about noon, we plan to move the party over to the Barrington Common property, encourage people to walk through the perimeter trail to get over there. And we plan to have a slate of activities on the Barrington Common property. And this is where it was very fortuitous that the timing worked out. The Energy Committee has had a request previously that Doug and I had talked about to program an event down at the Barrington Common property on this Sunday. And so I'll let Doug talk about that in a minute, but we had the idea to really expand on that and create, a day of activities, live music, encouraging the local food businesses to have food options available on the common. We plan to have the Welcome Way ribbon cutting. Remember, the kids named the road there by the post office Welcome Way. So we'll have a ribbon cutting component of the day. And then all of the folks, whether it be planning board members, Barrington Center Development Committee members, folks from our consultant for master plan implementation, folks from UNH Cooperative Extension, and hopefully many other organizations in town will have set up around the field with activities for kids, hopefully using some of the theme from the Sunday component, which Doug will talk about, but also give an opportunity for to engage with the adults about maybe what they heard, or if they didn't participate in the morning session, talk about the trajectory of the town center, certainly have visual aids, and a general town center in Barrington day. And so certainly there will be a big role for the select board if you're available to participate both in the morning and in the afternoon. And one other important component, the master plan implementation work that's grant funded has citizen engagement funds built into the grant. And so we're going to use those funds to send out a postcard invitation to every address in Barrington the first week of September to really encourage participation and let people know about the event. Hopefully folks will have the opportunity to participate in everything, hear the presentation and engage in that component. But even if folks just come for the afternoon part, we'll have stations set up so folks can engage. And one important part, that Jesse pointed out recently, that it isn't even 2004 since people have been talking about the town center. A town administrator, multiple town administrators ago, Al St. Cyr, was talking about the idea of a town center and getting the town hall and the library into the town center. And so for folks that have been in Barrington for a long time and for new residents, this event is a lot more about a progress report. Here's what we've done. We have the Barrington Common property now. We have good momentum on our trails and trail connectivity and everything that is kind of the backbone of the town center. And this is what's ahead. We have development interest. We have consultants that are helping us fine tune our regulations. And so there's a lot of momentum, as we know, because we've been in the trenches, but we want to make residents aware of the momentum and the excitement and kind of where things are going. So this isn't as much of a purely brainstorming session, because this community's had dozens of town center brainstorming sessions, but this is a progress report and a kind of call to action for the next steps of what we see in the town center. So I'll stop there to see if you have questions about the kind of broader component, and then Doug can give some details about what the Energy Committee is planning as part of that event. Awesome. All you, Doug.
I am Doug Bogan on the Energy Committee. I'm also chair of the Conservation Commission, just for reference. And with me here is Paul Panish, who's the chair of the Energy Committee. I expect you all know. This request, proposal is coming out of the Energy Committee formally. But Sunday is a nationally organized event that was designed to highlight the dramatic developments in solar energy, renewable energies, energy efficiency in general. Solar energy is now the fastest growing energy source. All the new electricity generation facilities around the world, solar energy is the #1 choice in this time. So we wanted to highlight that, and it was instigated by Bill McKibben, you may know, the noted author and climate activist, and a number of national groups have joined in to co-sponsor it. But we wanted to highlight what's going on here in Barrington. I'm sure you all know that, we've got solar on the town hall, we've got solar at the library. Califfs has a solar system in their backyard. And it really seemed that the town common was just a terrific focal point, center of this activity. And so the idea is to hold kind of a renewable energy fair, solar tours. I've talked with folks at the library about having a tour there of their system. I want to approach Califfs. I haven't been over there, but I expect they'll be interested in showing off their facility. And we'd like to do tours of individual homes. I hear there are over 200 homes throughout Barrington that have some solar energy on their roof or in their backyard. And we want to give people a chance to kind of check them out and see whether it might work for them. And other things like electric cars. Several of us have electric cars, and I haven't talked to a dealer or anything. It's not a sales thing, but we'd like to show off some of the new electric vehicles that are available. And even, community garden. I mean, that's solar energy at work, producing food, and perhaps some other projects as well. But we like to get a number of community and nonprofit organizations represented there, and set up some information tables. The Conservation Commission is interested in having an information table to talk about the trails that we have and that we're interested in having. And so really a community building event all in all. So I'll leave it there if people have any questions. We would like, of course, to request that we get formal approval of being able to use the common. I didn't want to put it out publicly before we had an official, go ahead from the town.
Do you feel like in 45 days you can pull all of those different things together?
Well, as I said, we've already done some of the planning, and I expect to really get onto it, literally tomorrow as far as getting out publicity. And, it's not going to be a huge thing, but we do expect, and I did mention there's only 2 other locations so far that we know about in New Hampshire that are doing this. There are over 80 locations around the country in almost every state, from the east to the west coast. But just 2 in New Hampshire, one at the state capitol and one in Keene. So we're hopeful that we can attract perhaps people from some of the neighboring towns if we get it on the map. I mean, literally, we want to get this on their map and start advertising that this is coming up. So that's the idea.
I don't know if you mentioned, it's the fall equinox. The 21st is the fall equinox.
Right.
And so that's the Sunday. And so the crossover, we hope to co-opt that theme of Sunday, the activities for kids, kind of focused on that, a Sunday in Barrington, but another activity going on that to help, because as you mentioned, I mean, it takes a lot to pull an event together. The rec department will be helping program some of the other activities around for the day, which is tremendously helpful. But that's a busy time for the rec department as well. So many hands make light work, and I think we can do it in an organized way to attract the broadest population of Barrington residents, but also just make it a fun day for folks.
I would make a motion to approve the Conservation Committee and the Energy Committee participating in Sunday on September 21st.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Simoco, aye.
Answer aye.
Capello, aye.
Hardikoff, aye. I see in our notes that we need to make a motion to authorize the use of the Barrington Common property for the Your Town, Your Voice. Would you like that motion now?
You can make that separately. I was kind of her motion probably covered it, but if you would like to make that one explicitly, we can.
Sure. Make a motion to authorize the use of the Barrington Common property for the Your Town, Your Voice, Building Barrington's Town Center Together event on September 21st of 2025. Mr. Manshreck has seconded that. Could I have a roll call, please?
Samaco, aye.
Manshirk, aye.
Capello, aye.
And Hardikoff, aye. The motion carries. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks.
Sure, thank you.
Moving on to
Consent agenda.
the consent
we-
agenda.
Move we approve the August 11th consent agenda, alpha through golf, as presented.
I'll second it.
With the amendment to the meeting minutes?
Oh, that would be good with the
As
amendment.
As amended, as presented, yeah.
Okay, so Mr. Manshreck, you're making a motion to approve the consent agenda with the minutes as amended from the June, January change out. Anything else before we ask for a second?
You said alpha through golf. Am I looking at, I have hotel.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so sorry. I just was reading off the top there.
Uh-oh.
Oh dear, okay. Amend by motion to approve the consent agenda, alpha through hotel.
The consent agenda grew from the titling to the list.
Yeah, whoa.
I think if
Thank
we
you
didn't
both.
approve that local control for the
That's right.
antique truck show.
Yep,
Quite a
very
bit of trouble with
important.
the public.
Okay.
Seconded as amended.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Samaco, aye.
Manshirk, aye.
Capello, aye.
And Hardikoff, aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Any other appointments?
No.
Okay. Staff report, sir.
Yes, thank you. I'll start with August work anniversaries, of which there are many, which isn't really an accident because a lot of times positions are created or approved at town meeting and then you advertise the position and get people on. And so August isn't an unsurprising heavy month with work anniversaries. The top of the list is Chief Conway. Obviously, as a staple in Barrington, has a park named after him in Barrington, but 38 years ago, he started in Barrington and still works. Michael Bayer has been an EMT for 15 years in Barrington. Keith Brody, 14 years. Patrice Lindsay has taken minutes in the Conservation Commission. She's 13 years. Michelle Libby, currently a police sergeant, is 9 years in Barrington now. Shane Elliott, member of the Highway Department crew, has been in Barrington for 8 years. Jameson Young, another police officer, has been in Barrington for 7 years. I was hired 7 years ago this month. Mark Morrow, a road agent and upcoming project manager mechanic, was hired 6 years ago this month. Rebecca Smith, currently the deputy town clerk, was hired 3 years ago. Chad Lee, Parks and Recreation program coordinator, 3 years ago. Diane Carter, custodian, 3 years ago this month. Noah Tugas, another police officer, 3 years ago. Tremendous tenure there and hope continued tenure among the entire list. Moving on to 2026 budget development. So the budget process is underway, has been for a little bit. Department heads are currently working on developing their initial budget proposals. On the 23rd of July, we met with the budget committee to go over kind of another after action from last year's budget process, implement some recommendations from the budget committee for the 2026 budget process. And again, this year, department heads will be meeting with the advisory budget committee. I included a calendar, a printed calendar in your packet that lists when those meetings are, if any of them are of interest to you. Of specific note, the budget committee moved their meetings from Tuesdays to Wednesdays. They're still available for virtual participation. They'll still be recorded, but Wednesdays work better for the group there. I also included a copy of the minutes from the advisory budget committee meeting in your packet. And obviously they're linked online for anybody interested to kind of give you a sense of how the budget committee, what's important to the budget committee as they approach this year's budget process. One thing that I did in scheduling the budget committee is that their kind of first meeting on October 15th when the budget process starts, I reserved some of that evening's meeting for an opportunity to discuss the recommendations from the total compensation study. We should be at a point where we have recommendations and the select board has had an opportunity to discuss it. And I want to make sure we have an opportunity for the budget committee too as well. That was something they were very supportive of in the last budget development cycle, taking that objective approach to total rewards. So the department heads will be submitting their budget requests to staff by September 8th. I'll also point out one of the select board's strategic goals was to do, one of the action items was to do a full audit of the budget, looking for opportunities for cost savings and cooperation among departments. So as part of that initiative, the finance administrator will meet with each department head prior to the submission of their budget request on September 8th to go through line item by line item of the budget and give the finance administrator to an opportunity in conversation with department heads to find some of those opportunities for savings and cooperation among departments. The finance administrator, myself, the municipal office administrator, and others will take those materials, make adjustments as appropriate, and prepare the budget binder for distribution. Our target date is September 30th. As in the past, we plan to make that electronically available on the same day it's available in the printed binders. So anybody interested is able to review the details of the budget binder. And then obviously the 15th is the first meeting with the Advisory Budget Committee of the cycle. And then October 20th, I'll do the same thing I did last year, give a primer to the select board on the initial budget request, and then we'll just do small updates throughout the rest of the process until December when the Budget Committee reports on their final recommendations. Any questions about the budget development process?
Just so I understand, on the 15th of October, you're reporting out to the advisory budget before we've seen the recommendations from the comp study?
No, I expect the select board will have an opportunity at a meeting or maybe two by then to discuss and start to frame how the select board plans to implement the recommendations.
Excellent.
So that will be an opportunity to present that to the budget committee.
Okay. Excellent.
Yep.
Thank you.
Moving on to exemption and credit changes. So this time every year, I kind of put the notice out to staff and the select board that any changes to exemptions and credits have to be placed on the warrant at a town meeting. And in support of our data-driven decision-making surrounding exemptions and credits, each October, once the data is available, we prepare an exemption and credit analysis, which takes all of our exemptions and credits, provides details of enrollments, also compares our exemption levels, including income and asset limits, to the county and the state. So we understand kind of where Barrington fits in the mix, and includes the data for the enrollments from the current year. So that I expect to be available in October. As normal, I provided a link to the 2024 analysis, which provides some idea of where we are. It also links back to every exemption and credit analysis back to 2018, so you can start to see trends and details as we've changed our exemption and credits and how enrollments have changed. One thing I do want to point out specifically, one law change, House Bill 99 this year changed how the service-connected total disability credit is applied. So the existing statutory language was intended, they say that the original language was intended that the service-connected total disability credit would be in place of the all-veteran credit. But the language wasn't really implemented that way, and it wasn't clear in the language. So the law changed, and now it's clear that if you receive the service-connected total disability credit, you do not also receive the veteran credit or the all-veteran credit, optional veteran credit. There's a few names, they have different benchmarks, but in Barrington, it's all the same value, so it doesn't really matter. They also, at the same time, increased the maximum credit level for the service-connected total disability from $4,000 to $5,000. Barrington has been at the previously allowable maximum of $4,000, and so if town meeting does nothing, if there isn't an article on the warrant next year, then the recipients of the service-connected total disability credit will no longer receive the all veterans credit in addition. And so that represents about $40,000 of credit value for the service-connected total disability recipients. I included in your packet certainly links to the statutes, but also the technical information release from DRA, which kind of details everything that I just said in a lot more words. than I did. So no actions required now at all, but I would ask the select board to consider any additional information you may want than what we've provided in the past in order to consider any exemption or credit changes. At this time, staff are not recommending any changes to exemptions or credits, but we want to make sure you have the information you need leading up to 2026 town meeting. Anything at this time? Okay. So we will discuss it again once the exemption and credit analysis memo is prepared. Also in your packet, I included the second quarter financial analysis. Pretty boring to the extent that we are in a pretty regular pattern. We don't have a lot of anomalies from a finance and budgeting standpoint. And so we are on track with our expenditures. There aren't a tremendous amount of expenditures this year that are outside of the norm. Every year, depending on where our paving falls, we've spent more than 50% of the budget, even though we're 50% through the year. That's because we've got a lot more paving done. The only other one that stands out is the transfer station. Depending on when we buy the bulk bag orders, that's really the biggest cost in that transfer station administration budget category. And so we've bought all the bags for the year already. So we're showing just over 60% spent on that budget. But that's why. Revenue, we're on track. We're actually a little ahead of where we normally are. Part of that is a very large building permit fee that was paid as a result of the construction of the TurboCam property down on Route 125. So that represented almost half of our annual budget for building permit fee collections. So we'll be over budget. We'll update that budget number with MS4 24 when we set our tax rate. So we'll be able to account for that additional revenue. But as far as our current budget for that revenue, we'll certainly exceed it. So nothing else out of the ordinary. You can see on the chart on page 4, the building permit fees in 2025, over 80% collection, and that's as a result of that building permit fee collection. Any questions, comments, concerns? We'll keep moving then. I have included a list of training opportunities in on page 6 now it is. I will point out the Managing First Amendment Auditors in Disruptive Behavior webinar is actually the Parks and Recreation Director's suggestion, and Tiffany's going to coordinate. We're going to set up that session in here and have it up on the screens and invite as many staff as are available to participate in that. Those are tools that are really valuable for municipal staff to have. Customer service is really important to us, and sometimes that can be challenging to provide consistent and quality customer service when you have to deal with disruptive behaviors and the unknown of when things turn disruptive. And so we'll be encouraging a lot of staff to participate in that as well. And that's all I have.
Good. Tiffany.
I have nothing extra today.
Well, we're glad to hear that. On to old business. I know. Ambulance 2 replacement proposal.
Interim Chief John Janelle is here. You have a proposal in your printed proposal in your packet. It is very similar to what we've talked about. I'll remind you that on October 21st, the select board heard a presentation from the retired fire chief about the need to replace Ambulance 2 and the exploration of options to do that in a more affordable way. Really, it was John and the other officers that were working on that behind the scenes. This has been a project in the works for a long time. And I will also remind you at the June 9th select board meeting, the select board authorized waiving the purchasing policy to give us some flexibility in buying these remounted ambulances that are kind of just on the lot and they don't respond to requests for proposals. So with that update, I'll turn it over to John Janelle for an explanation of the proposal.
You're on, Chief.
Evening. So I think Connor did a great job kind of giving a brief summary of what we've been doing. We looked at all options. We looked at purchasing a new ambulance would cost the town in excess of $400,000, take up to 3 years to get it. We looked at remounting the box on Ambulance 2. That was going to cost as much as purchasing a new ambulance as well. So our next option was purchasing one of these remounts. We looked at 4 different vendors. This company out of Pennsylvania, Global Emergency Vehicles, had units in stock that met our needs, were the most cost-effective units. Also, you'll see in the proposal is a power load stretcher, which is very important. Our fire EMS personnel comes in various sizes, so having something that's automatic to get patients in the back is extremely important. As you can see, the price range for a new one was in the $70,000 range. We were able to get a price from the local dealer to use the unit that is in his vehicle. We know the history behind it. It's basically been used for demos over the past 2 years, comes with a 1-year warranty, and I feel it's a great deal. Global Emergency Vehicles offered one at a slightly cheaper price. That did not come with a warranty. We don't know the history behind it. So that's why I recommended going with a demo. And then the last item you see is a new monitor. Currently the monitor in A2 is out of service. So if we run our second ambulance at the ALS level, we need that monitor. It's the exact same monitor that we have in A1, so it limits any training or confusion needs.
I'm glad you're going with the power loader to save everyone's back.
Yes.
Keep our staff healthy.
Yep. And both that and the cardiac monitor were on the replacement schedule existing for the fire equipment capital reserve. So that's been part of the plan all along as well. So the specific proposal is to fund the recommended replacement items with a combination of the ambulance revolving fund, the fire and ambulance revolving fund, which we've been saving for. We have cash on hand, and also utilize funds from the fire equipment capital reserve, which, as I said, I included a link to the copy of the replacement schedule from the last budget cycle. This is 2 of the 4 items listed on that upcoming replacement schedule, and we've been saving funds right along for that. So to be able to pay cash for both items based on funds that the taxpayers have put aside.
Excellent. Do we have a motion?
Yep, I move that we authorize the replacement of ambulance 2 with the equipment as presented, utilizing $55,000 from the fire and rescue equipment capital reserve and up to $325,000 from the fire and ambulance revolving fund.
Second.
We have a second. Could I have a roll call vote, please?
Demaco, aye.
And Sherk, aye.
Gabriella, aye.
Hardikoff, aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Good job.
I want to thank the team especially for the work on this. I think this is a perfect example of what we do really well in Barrington. The easy approach, the easy thing to do would be to order a new ambulance with all the bells and whistles and not have any questions or any details to research and spend the money quickly, but a lot. And efforts like this take a lot of time, a lot of research, a lot of stress about have we turned over every stone? Have we explored every possible opportunity? And something like this is going to save the town better than $150,000. We'll be able to get the ambulance online a lot faster. It's tremendous. And like I said, I think that's representative of what we do really well. So a special thanks to the staff putting that together.
Good job. Nice job.
And how long do you expect it to take once you have these permissions?
Lead time.
Lead time.
I'm going to say once we get the POs through.
Wow.
About a month for those listening online.
Very good.
Next up before you is the Madbury-Lee Barrington Fire Collaboration Working Group update and the potential for a vote on the working group charge.
Yes, thank you. So I was joined by our Vice Chair, Jim Sakosha, at the kickoff working group meeting, which was tremendous. We had an awesome first meeting. So I included in your printed packet a copy of the minutes. And I will tell you that we discussed at length at the meeting the importance of having sets of minutes that were written for a broad audience that could be shared and encourage folks to follow along to the process that we're going through. And so we took the time in preparing the minutes to make sure that they were written to be digestible by a broad audience. There's not a lot of fire EMS jargon in there. It's focused on what we're doing and how we're approaching it. And so I would encourage you all to share these minutes, a link to these minutes or copies of the minutes to anybody you know that's interested. This effort that we're going through will require, if it, depending on how far down the continuum we get, it will require a lot of buy-in from the community at large, and certainly the voting residents in the community. And so shining a spotlight on the process we're going through, the steps we're taking, and how analytical we're being will be very important. In the copy of the printed minutes, I'll point out a couple of things. We'll get to the charge in just a second, but the short-term and long-term goals, the goal action items, so this is on page 6 of 9, you'll see updates in each one of those goals based on progress so far. And it was incredible to me at the meeting and following the meeting, putting the minutes together, how much work the chiefs have already done in advancing this effort and the goals of the group. And so we'll continue to track progress on those goals in this way, as well as long-term goals. I'll also point out, and I realize that it might have been helpful to print this in color, but on page 8 is a quick analysis, a comparative analysis. You'll remember at the joint board meeting we had, there was discussion about the importance of data-driven decisions and analyzing available data. And so this is just the demographic data and some of the budget and broad call volume data, but it gives a pretty good representation of where the communities stand right now. You'll see for a lot of the data points, the breakdown between Barrington, Lee, and Madbury is very similar. Look at population, land area, municipal budget, even total call volume down at the bottom. Proportionally, those data points are very similar among the 3 communities. Some things that stand out, population density isn't very far off among the 3 communities. Even though there's a big size difference, the range is 155 to 225 people per square mile. And Lee is the most dense, Barrington next, and then Madbury is the least dense at 155. Something else that's interesting is if you look at the fire portion of the total budget. In Barrington, we're at 10.6% of the total budget goes to the fire department. In Lee, it's 15.5%, and in Madbury, it's 5.85%. So that really doesn't follow any of the other patterns from the demographics in the community, but it's interesting. Call volume per person, that's another one that tracks very close across all 3 communities. 0.13 in Barrington, 0.16 both in Lee and Madbury. So that's a very interesting data point. And then obviously, like I said, total call volume there across all 3 communities. So we have, as you will have read in the minutes, the chiefs have put together a tremendous amount of data relative to the calls that they have, the types of calls, the staffing that they have. And so we will continue to analyze that data and provide graphics to help digest what's really going on in the 3 communities. At the same time, the chiefs will be working on a response matrix that will work with a GIS professional to get on a response time map so we can start to see how all of this flows together. On the last page of that, you'll see the questions to be answered and data to be aggregated. And similar to the short-term goal action items, we have progress reports on these for folks to kind of keep track of where we are and where we're headed. I'll just move to the charge unless there's anything that folks...
Just a quick question about the working group.
Please.
Is the working group looking at... I'm thinking Barrington's a bit of an anomaly because of the amount of water bodies we have here, and certainly a little bit of an anomaly with the amount of trail systems we have. And then I think about like the other 2 communities. One of them has like a propane farm, I think, in their town that we have not necessarily encountered before. We have our underground gasoline tanks and things like that. But have you started to look at things like that within the community of what may be different? And are you going to wait until you get the data back on the calls?
That's one of the items on the questions to be answered. What unique needs exist in each community.
Okay.
And so that's part of that. So the high hazards, like commercial high hazards, was part of the discussion when we met.
Excellent.
Yep.
That was, yeah, those are the I can see us like really moving through this. You've done such great work, and then having like this 1 or 2 small barriers that we need to think about. So I'm just thinking, keeping those.
We learned at that meeting that the town of Lee has a fire rescue pontoon boat. Barrington may have all of our water bodies, but we have a 10-foot, 12-foot aluminum boat
Yes,
Yes,
that
yeah.
was donated to us, I think, in 1972. Yeah. So
And is still water worthy, like it will float?
currently it is, yes.
You may
Glad
have
to hear
seen
that,
it.
sir.
You may have seen it floating on the Christmas Dove Pond at the beginning of this season, deploying the decoy swans, despite what the rumor mill may have you believe. We don't just save cats and put out fires. The fire department is more than happy to help deploy decoy swans.
And why does Lee have that? What are their bodies of water? Just ponds?
Wheelwright Pond
Oh, right.
on 125. Yeah, that's the only one I'm familiar with.
Okay, so 2 additional items on this effort. So the charge, which the select board saw a draft of at our last meeting, and I have a copy there. I do want to share the Madbury Select Board had an opportunity to meet on Friday and had a couple of comments that they'd like to see integrated, but they approved it even if they weren't integrated. One of the things which I thought was a really insightful suggestion is item number 5 talks about the continuum of collaboration. But then they pointed out that only the far end of the continuum was mentioned. And so they said it might be worthwhile explaining that the one end of the continuum is each fire department just doing their own thing, and the other end of the continuum is a fire district. And so I think that's a perfectly objective change that further explains what we mean by continuum there.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other one, provide fire service, give our group better idea of the continuum. And so if the select board's open to that addition, then we can make a motion to adopt the charge with that change.
I have a question about why you want to waive the 2-step appointment procedure.
Yes, so we'll talk about that. This was the second item we needed to talk about, is the group felt it was very important to move forward with that community member. We have a list of meetings, which I listed in the town administrator report. It's also part of the charge. We plan to have meetings at 6 o'clock on Wednesdays, generally limit them to an hour once every 2 weeks. And so we're looking to have each board go through their process to appoint a member. The reason that I recommended the select board consider waiving the 2-step appointment process is because we don't meet again until September. And then if we went through a 2-step process, we wouldn't meet again until October. And at that point, the community member will have missed 4 of the meetings.
Do we know who we're recommending for
No,
that?
we'll invite community members to apply and then go through a process to appoint them. But my preference would be to have the select board appoint them at the September meeting. And so maybe if in considering waiving the 2-step appointment process, if maybe you want to suggest that a select board member, maybe the vice chair, because he's a member of the meeting, have an opportunity to talk to the applicants to kind of expedite the process, maybe that would be appropriate.
Because I feel like the information we get on the regular volunteer form doesn't give room for much information about the individual.
So maybe with meetings with the vice chair,
Yeah.
and so come to the September meeting with the applicants, having had a discussion with the vice chair and a recommendation for who to appoint. We did mention at the meeting that the meetings are open to the public, so anybody's welcome to attend. But the meeting makeup, when it comes to like voting and making decisions, it's a 9-member group, and so we don't want it any bigger than that. There will be one official community member, but certainly if there are multiple members that are interested, they could attend the meetings, but not be a voting member.
Okay. So make a motion to adopt the Madbury Lee Barrington Fire Collaboration Working Group charge as presented and waive the 2-step appointment procedure, replacing that with an interview by the vice chair who is seated on that working group, allowing them to interview and make recommendation for that placement or appointment of a citizen member at the September 8th meeting.
What she said.
Of
Two.
Yep.
Second by Dan.
Roll call vote, please.
Simoco, aye.
And Trick, aye.
WLI.
Hardikoff, aye. Motion carries.
Good additions.
That's some great work.
Thank you again.
Next up, let's talk new business, cruiser replacement, an additional building of a vehicle? Additional building vehicle?
vehicle.
What does that mean?
Well, you're about to learn.
Please, sir, what do those 3 words, additional building vehicle, mean?
So desk, you have your police chief and your deputy police chief to talk about the proposal to essentially replace a cruiser early in lieu of replacing it in 2026. And you also have your code enforcement official, Jamie Jennison, to talk about taking that early replacement of a cruiser and transitioning that into an additional administrative vehicle to support the activities of the building office in the town hall. So, Chief Joy.
We will cede to Mr. Jennison when you're set with us. Essentially, looking forward to 2026, we all know the budgets are going to be tight. The residents aren't going to accept anything beyond what we have to do. This should be a 2 cruise a year coming into 2026. I don't particularly want to ask for another $55,000 in the budget in 2026 because I don't want the fight, and there are other places where that money is going to be needed. So given the fact that we've had an excess, I'm going to be gentle, of details this year, a non-stop influx of details this year to be more specific, we have a decent amount of, I don't want to call it overflow, but money we could put towards a cruiser out of the vehicle maintenance fund from the $17 an hour for the cruiser, which comes in from the details. I've got $10,000 left over in my cruiser line because I bought equipment last year versus this year. So the money expended for the equipment that's in my Tahoe was ordered in 2024 because I actually wanted to have it in early 2025 to get it to put in the Tahoe. So I have some funds left there. The detail fund, the rotating detail fund, has some funding available. In the past, we've run that down to about $6,000 in 2019, if I'm not mistaken, to buy the Ford Taurus cruiser that Chief Williams purchased. I'm not going to take it down that low. I want to take it down to about $10,000 to pull from some funding from that source too. So long story made real short, I'm requesting $54,956, which is, and I'm going to use the term the state bid price. So you can't just go on to state bid and look at Tahoe and go state bid price. State bid price listed is for a stripped out Tahoe. For a Tahoe Patrol PPV, the state bid price is $54,956. They have a Tahoe quote unquote admin vehicle, which is less expensive than that because it doesn't have the spotlight. It doesn't have the blackout functions. It doesn't have a lot of what we need for a patrol PPV. So it's slightly less. So the state bid price for the patrol PPV is $54,956. I did quote McGovern, and you'll see that in the material as well, just to give you an idea of a comp. The vehicle from McGovern was
$58,412.
Thank you, $58,412. So slightly more expensive from McGovern. And the McMulkin Chevrolet dealership is the dealership that has state bid currently. So that's the nuts and bolts of it. Outfitting, which I did not include in this, and I apologize. I spoke to T.A. McIver. The next time I do something like this, I'll give you a full ball package instead of just the vehicle. The outfitting, it's about $3,000 less doing it locally, as we've been doing through Nevo/two-way communication. You've heard me call it both things. It's Nevo now. So we're going to save some money there too versus going down south for it.
So this is up for discussion tonight. Certainly the select board can make a decision. We'll talk about the additional code vehicle also. But are there specific questions or is there additional information that you'll be looking for? Again, the headline is next year we would be replacing 2 cruisers based on the cruiser replacement schedule. We have an opportunity with funding available to accelerate the replacement and prevent the need to add an additional vehicle replacement in the 2026 budget. So that will be almost flatlined, increase just to cover additional costs of new vehicles and using the funding that we have near. One reason we can't wait until next year to do the same thing with the surplus dollars is that $17 an hour goes back into the operating budget. So the $17 an hour we charge from the outside details, that goes back into the operating budget vehicle maintenance line. And so that lapses at the end of the year. So we need to either spend that by the end of the year or it just becomes budget surplus at that point. And so we have this opportunity up until December. I am supportive of this approach. I think the chief made an excellent point, and he's been hearing about it a lot lately, that the 2026 budget development process will be challenging, and it will be challenging to advocate for even the status quo in a lot of areas. And so looking for opportunities to maintain the level of service and stick to our plans, but in a way that doesn't increase the 2026 budget will be important.
Plus 2026 vehicles are going to be more expensive.
They're going to do nothing but go up. So this vehicle currently, we started this, this isn't just the last week or two's worth of work product. We've been digging in it for months now. Detective Sergeant Barber reached out to McMulkin for me back in April or early May, which is when I can check my email to give you specific dates, but it was spring-ish. At that point, when we reached out, they said, yeah, delivery's in August. So I recontacted them and said, well, we didn't do this in April. If I order it now, when's it going to be in? And the statement was, no, we ordered it. So they ordered a package of Tahoes. So we're not going to have to wait, thankfully, if y'all approve the purchase. It's in, it's here. This has been ongoing for us. So
How long is the 54,956 number locked in for?
I'm going to assume that's good until state bid expires, which will be the end of this year. But whether that Tahoe is still available is going to be the other question, whether somebody's going to grab it. The nice gentleman at McMulkin said he'd hold on to it for me until this week. After that, I'm going to be fighting everybody else.
I wasn't clear. How much is it to outfit the vehicle? Is that the 14,000?
Yep. No, the outfitting is going to cost, if you'll give me just a minute, my apologies. 14,645 minus labor. It's right in the ballpark of 17,645. So about 17 grand. And then I've got to strip part 2 of your presentation. I'm going to have to strip my Explorer out, regardless of whether it's going to building or not. I still need to remove a whole bunch of stuff from it because he doesn't want all my stuff.
What year is the Explorer?
The Explorer is a 2019 off the top of my head, sitting at about 120-ish. Cruiser 1, unit 1. 21, I'm sorry, 2021, I apologize.
It's a 2021.
And like the chief mentioned at the beginning, one of the things that, for the benefit of the community and the select board, it's good to know what an all-in cruiser costs. A cruiser with all of the equipment, everything, it's an $80,000 expense. I mean, that's what a cruiser is. One of the things, and going back to the comment I made about the fire officers and their work with the ambulance, taking the creative approaches of getting equipment here and transitioning equipment and finding all the used cruisers that we have that we've been able to cycle in. We haven't really bought a new cruiser with all new equipment in a little while. And so this, the chief has tried out the Tahoe because that's a cheaper alternative than that. Didn't they switch to like Durangos for the?
So there was the Durango.
For like the SUV style.
The Explorers are still going to be offered. Next year's cruiser will likely be an Explorer. I'll be able to reuse a little bit. And there again, therein lies the problem. Most of us sitting around here, with the exception of maybe Tiff, remember the Crown Victorias. The Crown Victorias stayed the same forever, and we were able to use our equipment forever. They didn't change the body styles. Even the Explorers that you look at, they keep changing the body styles this much. So a lot of our equipment, right? No, it's absolutely not an accident. They're in cahoots with somebody over at the outfitting services. So I can't use all my stuff. Some of the cages fit, some don't. Consoles don't fit, some do. Some lights will fit, some won't. My hope is, right now we have an interior cruiser package in the Explorer that may or may not be usable in next year's Explorer. Regardless, the Charger's on its way out next year. That has an exterior light bar, which worst case scenario, I'm hoping I can just buy the bracket to put the light bar in and we're good to go, and I'm going to save some money there. I'm holding my breath until that happens.
Okay.
But with the Tahoe, unfortunately, we're outfitting it.
Okay.
We're just
And in the
outfitting
future, we'll kind of, even if we're not executing all the purchases at that moment, we'll present the whole
package
anticipated cost. So, because like I said, I think it's helpful to talk in whole numbers of a whole project, even if, like you said earlier, we're buying equipment sometimes the year in advance. And so anyways, we'll do that a little bit better the next time. But that's the proposal there. Other questions before we talk about repurposing the retired vehicle? Please, Janet.
Do we need to not just discuss, but actually make a move on this now?
Well, he has a week.
I don't like to force the board into a corner at any point in time, but
It's on for discussion. So if there's nothing that we need to research and there's no additional information that you need, by all means, make a decision. We'll be able to get the cruiser off the lot. If you need additional time and want to wait to the next meeting, that's not the end of the world. It will likely delay the acquisition of the vehicle, but we will be able to move regardless.
Well, let's talk about what's happening with the other vehicles.
Good
So
plan.
Jamie, Chief, I would stay there, just
Okay.
like, let's.
I'll cede my
yeah.
seat.
Yes, just since we expanded the department, hired the 2 part-time people, it's always been in the back of my mind that an additional vehicle would benefit both the department and the town because it can be utilized in many ways. We have overlapping hours sometimes where we could schedule more appointments. There's training opportunities almost every other Wednesday that someone's out of the office and they're taking a personal vehicle and then using the mileage to be reimbursed. So I think, having another vehicle that's marked that identifies us as a town employee is beneficial. And when I heard they were going to get rid of this one, it seemed like it might be a frugal option to provide a vehicle. It'll reduce maintenance on the newer one that we have with less miles on that, sharing those miles. So it seemed like a good opportunity to explore.
And so this is actually a very common trajectory of vehicles in municipalities. We've been getting upwards of $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 for our retired cruisers at auction. They have value left in them. They just don't have value as a frontline cruiser anymore. And so, especially with the all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive cruisers that we have, those would be an excellent option for an administrative code vehicle. So the volume of work in the building department has continued to increase, and we don't expect it to go anywhere. And the scheduling is becoming challenging, where they're using personal vehicles a lot, which we haven't has not been a frequent complaint. But that isn't the expectation. The expectation when we hire somebody isn't that they're using their personal vehicle. And it's more than just the mileage reimbursement. Like Jamie said, we're driving on an official business, throughout town. And so having that legitimacy is valuable. Something else that when Jamie brought the suggestion to me that was top of mind is there are a lot of activities that, just based out of the town hall that staff are using their personal vehicles for that isn't necessary. And if we had the flexibility of additional vehicle, one of the things I really appreciate about our new planner, Ernie Creveling, is every single project or application that comes forward, the first thing that he does is go out and walk the site. He takes pictures. I'm sure you've seen them in his filings. And that's a very important part of his process. He commutes quite a ways to get here. He takes his truck when he's got to drive out into certain areas. And so it's more than just the mileage, right? He's choosing not to take his compact car to work. He's choosing to take his truck so that he can go out and be comfortable driving where he needs to be. So I think this is a great idea. This is kind of the first time we've talked about this. So certainly, even if you want to move forward with the cruiser replacement, we'd have time to further discuss this if you needed to. It's a new idea, but I think it's one that's got a lot of merit for the select board.
Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
How do you do the finances of this with your budget? Because you could make some money if you sold it.
No,
So-
general fund.
Yeah.
He'd love to make some money by selling, but the way the New Hampshire law works.
It goes to the
is-
general fund.
So, and I'll actually point this out because Chief Joy just goes to show how much of a team player he is. So because of New Hampshire laws for budgeting and finance, it's a bottom line budget, and any revenue that comes in, unless there's a revolving fund for that specific purpose, it just goes to general fund revenue, which offsets taxes in the fall, right? So what a lot of chiefs do, and what Chief Joy could do, is just trade that vehicle into the dealer. And from your personal experience, you never get as much trading in from the dealer as you do if you sell at private sale or other options. And the benefit in New Hampshire finance law to trading it in is that just comes off the purchase price. So you just spend fewer dollars, and the budgets and accounts that Chief Joy is responsible for are the benefactors of that solution. Whereas sending it to auction, that just goes into general fund revenue. And like I said, Chief Joy is a team player, as are all the rest of the department heads. But I think that comes too with the flexibility the select board has afforded department heads to be able to spend from unexpended appropriations for staff vacancies in the incident fund to help fill in the funding gaps. And so it certainly goes both ways. But there's no difference to the police department with that vehicle. It's just however many thousands of dollars wouldn't go to general fund revenue or would.
And credit where it's due, that was Selectman Ayer at the time.
You had a question,
bid.
Alexander?
Go to auction.
Not a specific question, just this is the kind of creativity that I really appreciate in our departments. And I personally don't think that there's any additional information I would need between now and the next meeting to change my opinions on this.
What was the mileage again?
On unit one, it's 120-ish, again, right in that ballpark. It's in, for 120,000 miles, it's in good shape. It's got miles left in it. It doesn't have, to TA's point, it doesn't have a lot of police miles left in it, but they don't drive cars like we do.
They're not supposed to.
So, and my question is there a software scheduling platform that we're aware of that would allow, so say you don't have people scheduled within the land use office, but you want to go to a Concord meeting, and we all know that, what do we use for a term? Mileage is like the silent budget killer or something. So is there a software component that if this was placed here at the town hall, that we could utilize that software to actually schedule who would be utilizing that vehicle?
Yes, there is. And we use that the same way we would for the scheduling of the conference rooms in this meeting room.
Excellent.
So it populates on the calendar. You can reserve it. You basically send it a calendar invitation. You can see when it's available. And we could set that up for the vehicles for that purpose. It's a great idea.
Very good. So would anyone like to make a motion to authorize the second cruiser replacement for 2025, retaining the 2021 vehicle with approximately 120,000 miles to be utilized within the land use and town hall personnel? Would anyone like to make that motion?
Yes.
What she said.
Yeah, I was going to say the same.
So moved, it sounds like, from Dannon.
And do I have a second, please?
Second.
And a roll call vote, please.
Marco, I.
Metric, aye.
Happy LOI.
And Hardikoff, aye.
Thank you all.
Okay.
I know you have to strip your equipment out of there, but I have a feeling Jamie really does want to go flying around with lights and sirens if he can.
I can get to my appointments a lot quicker.
We're not bailing them out, Chief. We're not bailing them out. Next up is tax deeding discussions.
Yes, so the select board has a duty, as described in state law, RSA 8076, to accept the tax collector deeds issued as a result of non-payment of taxes for 3 or more years. And so in 2025, a property is eligible for tax deeding if it has unpaid balance from 2022. The deed date for this year is August 18th. And the list of properties currently eligible for deeding is attached to the TA report, and I provided you all a printed copy. We're hopeful in conversation with a couple of these property owners that they will make the necessary payments to avoid deeding by the 18th. But every year at the select board meeting, just prior to the deed date, we present the information to the select board and discuss in non-public any deed waivers that may be recommended or requests for deed waivers issued by taxpayers. I will point out, as I said at the beginning, it is the select board's duty to accept these deeds. The statute affords some very small flexibility to the select board to avoid accepting additional liability for the town. So if there was a highly contaminated property, the select board doesn't have to accept the deed to that property. We have all the properties inspected. There's also flexibility and requirements if somebody is in bankruptcy, for example. And so we have a couple of items to discuss in non-public session, but I will answer any questions if the select board has them on the deeding process or what we do as it relates to non-payment of taxes.
So you need us to enter a non-public later on for purpose of reputation.
Correct.
Okay.
I think Select Person Capiella had a question.
I know we've been through this on other years, but how does the length of the list compare to other years?
Shorter than normal.
And the amounts
There are only six
actually
people.
significant.
And I give a lot of credit to our tax collector. You know, it's there is a high level of compassion and cooperation from the staff in our tax collector's office. You know, certainly our goal is to have every property owner in Barrington pay their taxes and not distribute that responsibility onto their neighbors. And our tax office staff are not therapists, or caseworkers, but there's a lot of support provided to help folks through circumstances that, setting up plans and sending reminders and, just those check-ins that has resulted in a lot of success in keeping people off the list to be deeded and getting people back on track so they can sustain. And some of those conversations also result in the, realization that property owners are eligible for exemptions or credits that they hadn't previously applied for.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's a commitment that the residents in town have made, that they want to provide that property tax relief to folks that qualify. And so I think the length of the list is a direct result of the work and the compassion of the staff to work with folks through their financial needs as it relates to property taxes.
We'll move to non-public after our regular meeting for purpose of reputation. Okay, moving on to select board. Am I?
You're in the right spot.
Yep,
Member
select board
reports
reports and concerns.
Okay, so the zoning board had an interesting situation, an interesting case arise this month, or last month. We had a variance that was granted back in 2016 that needed to be addressed. Ordinarily, the way the law applies, that variance would have expired, but because the planning board was reissuing the permits, it was determined that legally it had not expired. And we were dealing with a term that was actually not in the notice of decision. So that's still an implied term in the granting. So we were having to figure out what the best way was to address something that was not in the documentation. And the reason I'm going into more detail is our new town planner, Mr. Creveling, has been absolutely fantastic in beefing up the way that we record keep, particularly when it comes to land use board record keeping and notices of decisions. And he's really making sure that we have very clear records, because what we had was a notice of decision that simply incorporated the entire minutes for the meeting, which was a very messy way to do it. So ultimately, in concert with legal counsel, we determined that we could simply amend the notice of decision from 2016 to avoid addressing a case that would have been quite difficult. So that was, I think, the best way that it could have been handled. And, I appreciate the way that Connor and our town planner and the board came together to look for a solution in a really odd situation.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Thanks for that update.
Okay, Joyce.
So planning board at the last monthly meeting approved a minor 3-lot subdivision over on Green Hill and CB Bridge Road. So it'll be 2 3-acre lots, and then there will be an 87-acre plus or minus lot that as of this point remains undeveloped. In another case, the Dove Development Group requested an additional year. They're going through, because of some zoning board decisions, just some changes to that property. And previously, an abutter had requested a driveway as part of that, but that abutter has moved, and the current one doesn't need that driveway, so that got removed. They were granted a 1-year extension to deal with these new issues. We gave a planning board approved to send it to select board, a class 6 and private road upgrade on Berry River Road, and they will be doing the 10% option. We had notice of public hearing of some conservation subdivision changes, but because the link didn't go out when we did the public notice, we decided that we would discuss that again in September. The planning board did have some difficulty with some of the language around the common open space, around ownership and management, so around the town taking that over, associations taking that over, and about stewardship fees. So we decided we need to just research that a bit more.
What do you think and I know that you remember from the Trail Interconnectivity Group, the really challenging part of the open space is when it isn't owned by the town, it is most frequently otherwise owned by the homeowners association, which exists generally in a subdivision only as long as it takes the town to accept the road. And once the town accepts the road, the homeowners association has no real purpose, doesn't collect any dues, and essentially dissolves, although it still owns property and has responsibility to maintain that property consistent with the terms of the open space. And it leaves the town in a situation where our only option is to take legal action against a neighborhood of people, a neighborhood of our residents, which we have never done because that's about as politically unpopular as it gets. Deer Ridge is the best local example of this. There is beautiful open space that isn't monitored, isn't kept up, we have neighbors that live in the community that want to put trail cameras out and you need landowner permission. There's nobody to give permission because the homeowners association owns it and there is no homeowners association. And so the Trail Interconnectivity Stakeholder Group, and this is group folks representing the Snowmobile Club and trails and conservation and law enforcement otherwise, the recommendation from that group was to go through the process for the town to retroactively go and take ownership of these open spaces that are owned by the homeowners association. And so I think the planning board, it would be helpful for the planning board to have kind of the full understanding that that group has had an opportunity to kind of go through this path. Yes, it would be great if the town didn't own the open space, but this open space is a priority. It's a priority set out in the zoning ordinance, and there isn't a tremendous amount of cost. There isn't additional liability, direct liability, like if you were an individual property owner. We don't pay a higher insurance premium because we have this additional open space. But certainly the feelings of that group are ownership by the town is the preferred solution so that we can, make sure that these properties are maintained and properly stewarded as open space in perpetuity. So what do you think it'll take to bridge that gap or help folks understand?
The town planner said he would do some research, and I think if he would bring back that recommendation and other examples, that would be helpful.
Okay.
And the other thing was stewardship fees. So should we charge a developer an upfront fee so the town has some money to do that? Or is that a disincentive to use the conservation subdivision?
And that's I think an interesting way to look at that from my individual perspective is that most of the land that's developed, especially these developments that end up as conservation subdivisions, are land that's in current use. And there's a tremendous fee that's paid when that land is taken out of current use, and 75% of that goes to the conservation fund. And so I think from the developer's perspective, they are paying a fee for the development of that land and that open space. And being is 75% of that goes to the conservation fund, I don't think it would be inappropriate for the Conservation Commission to take on those properties that are developed in that way, that do end up with open space, take and encumber a portion of that land use change tax that ends up in the conservation fund and say, we'll reserve this portion of that for stewardship of this open space if it's owned by the town. So it has a direct relation to the land that's coming out of current use, right? That has a value. They pay a penalty. The challenge in the select board will remember this from when we went through the process with the consultants relative to master plan implementation with the conservation subdivision work. There's a lot of talk about balancing the scales of, we want to encourage the development of land with the conservation subdivision model because that has value in the open space and opportunity for trail and trail interconnectivity and preserving the open space that's important to the town. We balance that with kind of spreading those lots out a little bit, not clustering them any more than 4 and creating some additional buffers. But that we also considered the balance of, at some point, if it becomes too much more burdensome or expensive to develop land with a conservation subdivision, the developers will just choose to develop them as a traditional subdivision, which isn't terrible, right? We have good regulations for a traditional subdivision, but if we create too many requirements and certainly financial burdens with the, and there's no way to know what that balance is perfectly, but that's one of the reasons that we didn't include a stewardship fee cost in the zoning ordinance part of it. And I understand the planning board's looking at the subdivision regulations right now, which is another regulation on top that the planning board can waive. But that's an interesting challenge because, like I said, we don't know where the scales are no longer balanced, and we would disincentivize a developer from considering a conservation subdivision.
Could I direct you to have a conversation with the town planner using
Absolutely.
some of those examples?
Okay.
No question.
Anything else? No? Dan, report up?
Yeah, well, ABC, he's already done it. You see the minutes from the meeting, so that was a big start. Actually, I think a good start. I think we worked some things through that are going to be very useful. School board, Carrie gave pretty much a fill in. One of the things I think is important to know is that although there are laws say there are separations, I think the school board as a policy is going to have every volunteer get fingerprinted. There actually were some exceptions to who needed fingerprinting, but it's a little complex. So I think the policy that they decided on was to fingerprint all volunteers as part of their check.
An exciting collaboration. The police department is hosting a fingerprinting event for school volunteers.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. I thought you were moving on. I couldn't help but share that.
No, everyone wants to do my report for me. It's very useful. Transfer station, we had some meeting. I think this is an interesting statistic. This year for Hazardous Waste Day, out of the 583 people who brought hazardous waste turnkey, 125 of them were Barrington. Last year it was 85, so significant number. The composting seems to be working pretty well, so we don't know if that will increase. Library board got some money. Foundation got more money. Friends got more money than that. It's all very confusing.
But they're giving it to the library.
Well, yeah, it'll all go to the library, but be very specifically targeted to.
Sure, they'll work it out.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
As opposed to the grants.
Ask one question. So the police are doing the fingerprinting.
Yeah.
Are there other groups of volunteers in town who also need to access that? Library volunteers?
I think it's pretty widely advertised, and folks invited to participate. There are other groups like the Barrington Youth Association fingerprints all their coaches, and we have looked for opportunities for kind of reciprocity between the background check process, even rec staff, for example, that are all fingerprinted. But the police department always provided the fingerprinting services for free. But it was, hey, go to the police department. If the duty officer is there, or the chief or deputy chief, they get you fingerprinted. And it wasn't always you weren't always able to get fingerprinted the first trip, just based on staff availability. But this is a way to get everybody, all at once. They still have to pay for the background check, which if they're fingerprinted, you can get I think it's a $10 background check the state will provide.
For volunteers with a waiver form.
The school board did point out and commented how accommodating the police has been. Their volunteers anyway, but
okay.
And then library grant, that's done.
Okay. I have to read my notes. So conservation meeting is Thursday night this week. I will not be there because of a volunteer commitment that I have. But the energy committee. So they have, their presentation has been updated on the CENH. And let's see what else. They're working interactively with both the trail group, with the Stratford County group. They're working with a Facebook event page being created by Doug that he mentioned tonight, inviting multiple town organizations to work with them on that Sunday, SUN Sunday. There are, this is important, this is big. It was the first report out of a negative bill here at the town hall. You generated more sun electricity than you paid for electricity. And that's a pretty exciting outcome.
Quarterly or?
I think it's
It was a monthly bill.
So that was
I also received our first quarterly renewable energy credit check of $216.
Woohoo! Look at that unexpected revenue rolling in. And then they're working on a variety of different ideas with someone locally for the gravel pit solar discussion. I'm trying to think if there's anything else on here. Both Eversource and the community power, we're seeing increases in rates, and they've canceled their 21st energy meeting, and will hold their next one September 4th. That's all I got. Okay. Moving on for our second public comment, please. If there's anyone online that would like to speak, please mouse over and click on your hand icon. You'll be recognized. Anyone in-house that would like to speak. Total of 15 minutes, but 3 minutes per person, unless there is predetermined reason that we should extend that. I don't see anyone, so I'm going to close the second public comment at this time. I would make a motion to enter non-public for purpose of reputation. Sounds like there's some work to do. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Demaco, aye.
Nanchuk, aye.
Capello, aye.
Hardikoff, aye. Will enter non-public at 7:57. Okay. At 8:16.
Give Tiffany an opportunity to open the door,
Yep.
and then I think we're ready to adjourn.
Did you hear anything from Len?
No,
Hope everything's okay.
no, I mean, I talked to him late
Oh.
last week.
Was he working today?
No, he wasn't working, which is why he was able to participate.
Could have been an emergency and he's on a plane anyway.
Yes.
8:16,
reach
we
out.
exited yep. No need to withhold anything, and that's it. Motion to adjourn?
Looking for it.
Okay, motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Monaco, aye.
That's right, guy.
Capella,
Hardikoff, aye. Jim would be very proud of us. 8:17.